To say I'm a little bit worried about Blue Beetle would be an understatement. At this point, I'm terrified that this film is going to flop, just like everything that's been coming out of DC over the course of the last year. And I don't think anybody can argue that the last thing we need is people coming out and reinforcing their point. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, stick around. Here we go. By now, I'm sure you've already seen the trailers, well, many times now, of Blue Beetle, and a somewhat seemingly throwaway joke at the end of the trailer itself, basically saying, Batman's a fascist. And while the original claim behind that somewhat offhand comment by the crazy uncle was seemingly dismissed, it turns out that it really isn't such a throwaway line. And this is some very bad news for fans like me who are looking forward to the appearance of Zolo as Jaime Reyes / Blue Beetle, and a somewhat unknown character that they had an opportunity to do a long-term development with. According to the actor himself, and I'm referring to Zolo, he says, I can't reveal if more superheroes are mentioned, but Batman is obviously the one in the trailer. And I think that we will experience certain superheroes and opinions through the eyes of the family. In other words, saying, you're going to get to hear all of these family members bashing on what could be your favorite character. Interestingly enough, George Lopez's crazy uncle character in this film isn't the only one that's going to be giving you some maybe unpopular opinions about your favorite superheroes. And I'm not saying it. It's the actor in the film that's saying that. He adds more to clarify, saying, I think it contextualizes it in a way that feels honest to these characters. And maybe he's speaking specifically about George Lopez's character, but I'm curious just how many of these unpopular opinions we're going to be subjected to. Worse yet, of course, is what he followed up the original commentary about during the course of that interview. He says, if you felt some type of way about it, that was the point. Yeah, I was pissed off that you attacked my character Batman, who's clearly not a fascist. He went on to say, and I think you've probably heard this before, if you don't agree with it, it's placed there for a reason. And, you know, all of the people who have their Batman shrines at home can keep them there. They don't have to worry. Is Zolo insinuating that you aren't allowed to look up to certain characters if they don't fit into your racial structure? Because if you ask me, that seems like a racist take. And what's surprising to me, and has been all along, is that this film is supposedly loosely fitting inside of Gunn's new rebooted universe, although I don't see how. And it's really confusing because of how Gunn has actually presented this, saying that the Blue Beetle is the first character, but the Superman film he's making is the first movie. And I don't know how you're going to end up with Blue Beetle fitting into this new Gunn universe if they do try to shoehorn it in there, because this film is poised to make very little money. It's poised to be a flop. And originally, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I was looking forward to this particular character, this particular story, and I thought it had a lot of potential. It definitely has the right actor, and I don't know if it has the right director, because guess what? He also put his foot completely in his mouth and chased it down with his other one. So much so, he actually ended up attacking people in our very own sphere, in the Fellowship, going after them about their takes on this character and its portrayal, and essentially the movie arc overall. Of course, that became rather unpopular, and the director was, well, waylaid by a bunch of commentary via social media, which eventually caused him to lash out at Brian Cannell specifically, and ultimately shut down his social media altogether. A lot of different takes want you to consider that maybe this film specifically should have gotten HBO Batgirl treatment. Quite possibly. We could argue that Shazam! Fury of the Gods, The Flash, and this film could have all been put in a box and just, well, distributed via streaming, or just put away forever and written off as a tax write-off. When you look at the performance of Flash itself, and if you've caught today's video on the box office, you know The Flash is doomed, and it's headed to digital real soon. Maybe it'll be announced a little bit later this week that you'll have a chance to watch it on some kind of a VOD or streaming service really soon. But I have to say, I think it's going to be difficult for Warner to choke down another 2 superhero losses in a row, which will give them quite the streak of 5 non-winners. Of course, as you already know, not to be outdone, Disney's chasing down their own record across their entire nameplate catalog, with losing at least somewhere between 1.1 and 1.3 billion. But we'll set Disney aside for now. The worst thing that could happen for this Blue Beetle film is for more footage to come out, or word of mouth that there are more classic characters, the big three in DC, the Trinity, that are attacked. Of course, they won't attack Wonder Woman, but they're definitely going to go after Superman. Will they go after anybody else? Who knows? But anytime you do that, especially in a universe that's so disjointed and falling apart as this one is or has been here towards the end, I think you're only putting yourself in a position to further alienate the audience that you so desperately need right now. So I have to ask a question, because I think it's somewhat relevant. Are you going to go see this movie? Do you think that you can overlook the fact that you've been attacked once again because of your opinion and your preference for, I don't know, portraying these characters as heroic? And as the economy gets tighter, is this going to be a film that you want to contribute your dollars to going forward? Also, and this is an important demographic question, and it's one that Paulie and I have talked about at length before, the Latino Slant. You should check out his channel. Is this going to undercut the Latin audience that has been growing across the board in service of all films? Will it undermine the interest that the studios have in making more Latin-centric films with Latin-centric stories by Latin-centric directors and actors? Because if this director and this actor made a oopsie, they should feel very bad for that demographic group, and they should be making an apology. Ultimately, the box office is, well, the big scoreboard here. So I think that we'll all have some pretty decent answers for the questions that I just asked in the very near future. And I also think, based on this film's performance, we may or may not ever see Blue Beetle and Jaime Reyes in Gunn's new rebooted universe. It's all going to come down to performance. And I think that the director and the actor just figured that out. And with that, feel free to answer any of the questions that I posed in the comment section down below. We've got a few more videos coming out this week that are already scheduled, set up to be recorded. So I'm very excited to get to those. I hope you're having an incredible Monday. And be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye.